when something really terrible, like to these like celebrities that are Ashton Kutcher's friends, it's like, yeah, at some point, are they finagling this a little bit?
And then it
where
becomes
they
like
know
a thing in a movie. We're like, am I on
Yeah.
Punk'd? Like, is
Right.
Ashton Kutcher going to come
I
out?
used a line of it. It's like, oh, come on. Like one of the characters in Psychos is like,
Okay, I must be getting punked, right? Happy birthday to James.
Yeah, right,
Yeah.
right. This is like,
Yeah.
that becomes like a thing.
It's
And
a
at that
thing.
point, you're like,
Sure.
But, so. Welcome to the 611 Films podcast. I am Neil McKay, and with me over here,
David Groves.
we're here in person, live from Asheville, North Carolina.
Yes, we are.
We are in Asheville, not Nashville, and we're talking about there's a road trip movie that makes a reference to Austin, not Boston, called Road Trip, and that's what we're talking about.
A road trip movie called Road Trip?
We're talking about road trip movies, yes.
Yes.
Since you and I are here traveling, well, we didn't travel by road, we traveled by plane, but we're here and we're
Yeah.
talking about
Road trip
movies because we're kind of
It's kind of a road
it's
trip.
kind of
yeah.
it's kind of a road trip. So we're like, hey, this feels like a
Well, we have done a road trip. We did do the big drive out to Los Angeles back in 2008. So we did have that road trip experience.
we definitely did, yes, and that is why I think this is like everybody loves the road trip movie because it's like it's nostalgic because everyone's been on a road trip. They go on vacation, they drive
Yeah.
somewhere, whatever, and that's what they love it. It's like the comedies and the this and that. It's just like. Or even the dramas, they're just like, yeah, I can relate to that. I know what they're talking about. You know, where you stop off at the gas station and you do this and that and the other, and it's like,
Yeah.
everybody has these fond memories of like going on these trips and doing these.
They either
these
have
things.
really fond memories or terrible ones, I think.
it's one of the other.
If you look online and you look up like the best road trip movies or the top 10, you know, some of these movies I'm just like, is that really a road trip movie? Because the way I would define it is you start from point A, the characters start at point A and they're trying to get to point B, and everything that can go wrong does. Whether that is like in a comedy or drama or thriller, that is kind of the point of that's how you dissect a road trip movie, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with that. I wouldn't say necessarily like something has to go wrong. It's just like you have like a journey and whether it's obstacles or hijinks
Yeah.
or whatever, like that happens on the way.
Sure.
It's like, but it's, yes, they're getting, I'm here and now I want to go there. And this is my,
and
this is what happens.
the thematics or the evolution, the arcs of characters happen during the trip.
Right,
You know,
exactly.
starting as one, you know, whether they're the gruff and angry person, and then they get a little bit more lighthearted. And that kind of starts I would say my first movie, which is a little obscure. It's called Dutch. It is with Ed O'Neill and Ethan Embry from like 1991, 90, or 92.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's not obscure to me because like I'm an '80s child, so it's like I'm married with children, and as soon as that movie came out, we all wanted to see, Al Bundy doing what is this? And that's a great poll. Is that was that your I know you told me you had an obscure.
I
movie.
had an obscure. It was kind of obscure because it's not on any lists that you'd see on the internet. But when you say road trip movie, and I'll talk about another one that always comes to my mind because it's just such a great film. It's a Spanish film, but this one, Dutch, I loved as a kid. I thought it was hilarious, and maybe it was because I was kind of around the same age, maybe a little younger than like Ethan Embry, and it was just such a funny movie to me. Like, with Ed O'Neill.
it was such a classic, and and when you say it, I can't believe I didn't like. I was like, oh yes, of course, that's classic, like because it's Ed O'Neill. Like I'm gonna take you from school to go home for Thanksgiving or something,
Thanksgiving,
or for Christmas or whatever it is.
Right.
And it was like, yes, that is like the quintessential road trip movie.
Yeah, and it's like it's kind of missing. I don't know if it was something like the critics were really into. I feel like that kind of movie was like it was an 80s vibe movie that kind of just happened in the 90s. Like that sort of a little bit of the comedy is very childish. It's he's a very blue class kind of working guy, and he's like the Ethan Embry character's sort of a snobby, know-it-all kind of kid.
And then he kind of becomes more like, okay,
he's very.
I don't have to be so pretentious at the at the end. And
I mean, the whole idea, the backstory, a little bit of it is Ethan Embry's a rich kind of spoiled kid. and his father was supposed to pick him up, and he never does. So Ed O'Neill's character pretty much goes to get him, and he's married to his mother now, and it's just a funny thing because he's going literally kicking and screaming. Like there was some funny stuff where he's been training in martial arts and he kicks Ed O'Neill's ass in one scene. And it's pretty brilliant.
Yeah. It's got the two most memorable scenes to me are like, just for me was like when he's in the bathroom and like it's a public restroom or something, and like I think it's like this old guy is like bathing in the bathroom, and he's like, "You going somewhere nice for your turkey dinner?" And he's like, and then underneath, and everybody's just like, "Oh."
Yeah.
And then the other one is like they're I think Ed O'Neill's like, well, you don't have money, so you can't pay for breakfast, and he's just eating in front of him to like torture him.
Yeah.
And then he like burps, and he's like, nothing burps better than bacon. And it's like, it's a classic. It's great.
When he gets the playing cards with the nudie women on it. The fireworks scene, I still think like Ed O'Neill's just having so much fun with these fireworks, and like it all goes awry, but you start to see him kind of crack the kid's shell. So sort of by the end of it, and it's got a great ending too, because I think at the very beginning he like shoots him with a BB gun, and it sort of ends with "I still owe you one."
Yeah.
And it's like that final shot of the movie where he's like holding the BB gun at him. And it's I just think it was just a fun movie.
Yeah, no, it's a great choice. Like I totally forgot about.
Yeah.
Like I was like, it totally makes sense. But yeah, it wasn't like I was doing my like research and I was like, that didn't come up because I guess it was just kind of one of these forgotten ones. I'm gonna stay in that realm though, as far as like, like odd couples, and then they come together and become friends, and I'm gonna go Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, which I feel like is like almost like a cliche one because that always comes out as like but that to me was just such a classic.
And spoiler alert, I've never seen that movie.
Oh, you've not?
Nope.
Oh my god! Like
that's for some reason has missed me. I feel so weird talking about road trip movies, and it's like that is the quintessential one that I've never. I feel like I've seen bits and parts on TV, and I'm always like, I don't want to keep going with this. I want to start it from the very beginning, and then I never actually do.
Well, I guess you got some homework.
I do. I do.
But it is definitely like not a spoiler, but it's basically like John Candy and Steve Martin are like trying to get home for Thanksgiving, and they just have a bad luck with like trying to get home with planes, like just the whole how am I going to get home, and they can't get a rental car. It's the classic scene with Steve Martin cussing out the rental car agent. We just did this yesterday, actually. I was getting a rental car from the airport,
having a great time.
And I was just like, and I it was like in my head, like I remember Steve Martin going like, "Just give me a fucking car," and it's this classic scene that's just great. But so they're down on the luck, they can't get, and they decide to kind of join forces and get home. But they are totally like, like John Candy's the kind of like, laid back,
the laid back,
fun
goofy
guy, and
fun.
Steve Martin's like uptight, and it's like the odd couple. But then by the end, they're like friends and stuff. And it's just such a great like, heartwarming, but it's funny too. And stuff.
It's funny,
And I think it's a John Hughes movie. I think, right?
You're right. Yeah, I believe so.
So you definitely need to see that.
I definitely do. I feel like on the next pod I should just bring that up and just be like, I finally saw it. I finally saw it. 25, 30 years later.
It's not the first time though. I think we did a Christmas thing with Johnny, and he still will refuse to see It's a Wonderful Life until some day. And I'm like, what? How are you a fan of Christmas movies and you've never seen It's a Wonderful Life? But anyway,
sure.
But okay, so what do you got?
And then the Spanish movie, I
know what it is.
It's Y Tu Mama Tambien. It's a cool little flick. I mean, it's kind of it has everything going for it. It's dramatic. It's funny. It's a little sad and depressing at times. And it's just it's a very difficult movie to describe, I think.
It is. Yeah.
So basically, I think the two ideas, and this brought us Diego Luna and Gael Garcia Bernal.
Right. I was completely, because I just started Andor, the Star Wars, and I completely forgot that is the same guy, like 20 years ago, like Diego Luna, and I was like, oh my god, he was in that movie, but he was younger, and
and I think that they had a really good. I think those two guys have done 2 or 3 or 4 other movies. Like they were the Cheech and Chong of like that kind of era, like early 2000s. Like they did a lot of Spanish movies together. So, but this is like the first one that I noticed them in, and it's them kind of going on a road trip with an older woman who found out I think she has cancer and doesn't have that much time left. Mm-hmm. And again, it's a very tough movie to describe, and I think it's a lot to do thematically with relationships, sort of like this unrequited love, and not living life to the fullest. Maybe I think they kind of see things a little differently than her, and how time is fleeting, like for all of us.
Yeah.
So I think that's one of the bigger themes, and it's been forever since I've seen the movie, but I just remember really, really liking it, and it was a great time period back then too. Like Amores Perros came out, and
was it the same guy? Was it Pedro?
Cuarón, I think Cuarón,
Pedro Almodovar. But did he do that?
I don't think I think it was Alfonso Cuarón.
Oh, it was. Yeah, you're right. You're right.
If I'm wrong, you're right. I'll make sure.
I know. I think you're right. I think it is Cuarón. Yeah.
But that was a great era, like 90. It was 2003ish.
It was like early. It was early 2000s. Because when we were like, all right, we're gonna do this topic of road trip movies, and I'm looking at like, all right, what are good road trip movies? And that one comes up, and I was like, holy shit, I haven't seen this movie in like 20 years, but it was a great movie, and it almost like it was almost like in my like whatever top 5 or top 3 or whatever you want to say.
Yeah.
Because it was like, I just remember that being like, oh man, that was a really good movie.
Right. Yeah, it's not for everyone. I think that the characters just so well done. Everything was so great. I think the cinematography was gorgeous. Like all around, it was just a great film.
Yeah, it was cool. Now, I mean, Diego Luna and Gail Garcia Bernal. Yeah, I was like, I know Bernal, but what was the last part? I don't know if I would say they were the Cheech and Chong, but
no, that's a bad reference. But I think they were just in movies together.
They were in a bunch of movies together.
Yeah.
However, though, and it's not it's a worthy of mention list, but the Cheech and Chong did Up in Smoke, which was a road trip movie.
True.
And which was very popular in the late 70s. So
okay.
So there you go.
I have not seen that one either.
Well, I mean, I believe I have, but I might have been under the influence.
So you were Up in Smoke too.
I was Up in Smoke.
Yeah.
I don't know how much I remember of it, but so I don't know. I guess I'm gonna stay in the 80s, man. But,
okay.
Pee-wee's Big Adventure.
Oh, that
was like
okay.
And that just hit all the notes for me because it's weird, it's funny, it's just like, you're just like, what is going on? And it's like all the stuff that happens, and by the end you're just like, really? Like, so but if that's one of those movies, if it's on TV, I'm watching it. Like, if I'm just like, all right.
I don't think I've seen that on TV in quite a while.
Nor have I, but
that was one of those things like on USA they'd play all the time on Saturdays or something in the afternoon.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a good pick. That's cool. Again, it's been so long since I've seen it, and it's all about him. Like he lost his bike or someone stole his bike. Right?
Oh, it's just such a ridiculous plot premise. It's just like, he lost his bike, which meant everything to him, and then he's trying to find it. And
right.
I don't know where he starts, but he's trying to get to the Alamo in Texas, in San Antonio, to get the bike. But there's so many like, where he's laughed at the Alamo. Like there's no basement in the Alamo, and then the whole Large Marge thing, which freaked me out as a kid. Like where she's like,
I could see that,
and it looked just like this, and then it was like the face goes, and I was just like, whoa. Like that was crazy. Yeah. That was like 1985 or something.
That was crazy. I think the big thing I always, every time if that movie's brought up, all I can remember is like the tequila dance.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's what made that's what made that famous. The Pee Wee Herman dance, but that was like there's so many things from that, and that was
Tim Burton.
Tim Burton's first movie, I think. Mm-hmm. And I was also thinking, I think Phil Hartman from Saturday Night Live wrote that with
Paul Rubens?
Yeah, I think him and Paul Rubens like created Pee-wee's Playhouse, which was the big show in the 80s.
Okay.
Like that was on. Like Phil Hartman was big in that. And it was just like, damn, Phil Hartman, because I thought the Pee-wee's Playhouse thing was great too. That was like,
the
genius.
show, of course. Oh yeah, that was a wonderful show. I didn't have actually road trip in my list or whatever. So the third one I'll say is 3:10 to Yuma, and I'm actually saying the updated one. And the reason why
the one with Christian Bale and Russell Crowe. Yeah, okay.
And that one doesn't really have much of a road, but obviously the whole plot point is that Christian Bale is kind of he's kind of a broke frontiersman, and he's got to bring Russell Crowe to this train station because he's an outlaw, and he's going to be hung, and they have to get him from one place to another. All the while, his I think Ben Foster, like his henchman, number 2 is coming after them, and at every turn, Russell Crowe's trying to escape.
Yeah.
So, and I say that one, and it's been on my mind because I'm kind of that is a little bit of an inspiration for another movie I'm writing right now, which is kind of in that same line of the sort of the bad guy and the hero coming together. And
is it the Onslaught of the 7 or
Onslaught of 17? Yes.
Or 17, yeah, okay.
Yeah, Onslaught of 17 is kind of what I'm writing. It might go in a little bit of a different direction, but it was very much a, career criminal or a criminal person working with a cop and, butting heads and fighting with each other the entire time. But at the end, they find a mutual respect for one another.
Yeah,
and it was kind of it was a cool movie too because this came out quite a while ago, so spoiler alert. But at the end, Russell Crowe doesn't actually even get away. He gets on the train. He kills his own men after Christian Bale dies, and then the honorable thief gets on the train and almost arrests himself. It was just kind of an interesting, kind of honorable type thing to do, and it had great action scenes.
Yeah,
and I've never been a big Western fan, but it was directed by James Mangold. He's doing the new Indy 5, and he did Logan. So I think he's a really good director.
Yeah,
like, great characters.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I do remember really enjoying that movie. And again, it was one of those ones that like, I don't even think of it. Like, but it is a road trip movie because it's a train. It's not. It's not a car in a traditional sense.
They all got to go from one place to the next. There's no roads.
It counts. Yeah,
sure,
totally. But no, good. Yeah, again, two movies. I'm just like, I don't even think of that. But I would go. So I would go with one that's like a recommendation one because I didn't know anything about it. I had no expectations. I was so pleasantly surprised. But have you seen Peanut Butter Falcon?
I haven't seen that one.
That one is it's and I don't know. I know some people are Shia LaBeouf, like, but if you can get over that whole thing with Shia LaBeouf, like he's kind of like this. I don't know, like I would say shady kind of character who's got nothing to lose, like an anti-hero kind of, and he befriends this kid with Down syndrome who wants to be a pro wrestler, like Hulk Hogan and that kind of thing, and somehow they meet up and they go on this road trip to get him to this place where he's like, all right, you're gonna go wrestle.
Right.
And it's just like, and it's just it was such a funny and heartwarming movie, I thought. And again, I went into it, I was like, I don't know, but I was like, wow, this was really good. And like, it's one of those ones that,
I think Shia LaBeouf is a good actor. I think he's hit a lot of rough patches, as most child actors do, but he's a really talented person.
He's an excellent actor. Again, if you can get past all his nonsense like behind the scenes or whatever, but like, so that would be my recommendation is like, it's a great movie to check out. And it is, I think it fits in the road trip genre. So.
Sure. No, exactly. And then we just like, I mean, some of these that I think when I was doing a little bit of research, I mean, I think Mad Max Fury Road was an excellent action adventure kind of film, probably one of the best ones that have come out in the last decade. Is that really a road trip movie? Yeah, but
actually it is.
I mean, it is.
It the whole time they're going somewhere. They're driving in a car, basically.
I don't know. There was just something about it though that just doesn't. Maybe it's because it's not like super funny, and I think immediately when you say road trip movie, it's like, okay, it's a comedy or it's going to be a dramedy. Of some sort.
Yeah.
So it's tough to kind of see those as that.
Well, Y Tu Mamá También was like that wasn't a comedy. That was like
I think it was a drama.
Yeah. So that was, but again, that's an example of like, it doesn't have to be a comedy.
Sure.
Or whatever. They're not road trip movies, but they have iconic road trips in them. Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas and Swingers going to Vegas.
Right.
Like everybody remembers those two, like the respective trips to Vegas in those movies.
Yeah.
So those are worthy of mention, even though they're not road trip movies.
Right. True Romance.
Yeah,
Kind of a road trip movie.
Agree.
Now they're on the road, even though a lot of it starts in one place and ends in one place. But you could kind of finagle that as we got to go from here to there, and all the while people are chasing them.
Yeah, I mean it's really a journey. Like if you don't necessarily have to be driving a car, be in a train or whatever, but it's like you're on a journey. It's a trip. You're going.
Classic comedy, Christmas or. Not Christmas Vacation. I love Christmas Vacation. I think that's my favorite.
But the original Vacation, yeah, of course, that's like the one that everyone's like, that's a classic.
Classic.
And on that note, I was gonna say Blues Brothers is like an iconic road trip.
I have not seen that either. I know.
But that's like
there's so many of these road trip movies that I'm like, when we started, like I said, doing the research, I was like, I haven't seen that. Oh, I haven't seen that one.
And then I have. Sorry, I have to cheat now a little bit because I'm like, what were the? Because I have to do research.
I got you. Of course.
What else is on there? But Kingpin, the Farrelly brothers.
Kingpin's a good one.
was a road trip one.
Right.
And then and on the vein of like they're not really road trip movies, but About Schmidt and Sideways had some road trip stuff in it from Alex.
Payne.
Alexander Payne.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because Jack Nicholson going to driving through Nebraska is classic, and then and then Sideways they're going to Santa Barbara for wine country. So you have some iconic like stuff going on, even though they're not really road trip movies because a lot of it happens at whatever destination.
Yeah, when they're at the vineyards and stuff like that. But I do think it's
getting there is like the stuff that happens,
right? And it's just one of those sort of that was another really good one like in that era. Like, spoiler, we might be doing a podcast on 2003. I think that came out. Sideways.
I think
it's
2003. Yeah, you mentioned that to me like earlier today that 2003 was, I think it was 2003 was a good year for movies, or maybe it was 2002. But you're right. Like that, I was like, oh wow, we love 1999, but that year was also really good for a lot of stuff coming out.
Just a little preview of what might be coming. But I like Sideways. I love Sideways.
Smokey and the Bandit.
No.
That's classic road trip.
I didn't know that. Smokey the Bandit just kind of. I thought it was like a car. Like, what's the?
Well, the whole thing. So this is how crazy. Like, I guess it was back in the day, but Coors Light was like the thing.
Not Bud Light.
No. Well, because you could only get it in Colorado, so like they would bootleg Coors Light to other states out of Colorado, and the movie is like Burt Reynolds is trying to get a shipment from. I don't know where he starts, but he's trying to get it to like Georgia or Tennessee or something like that, and then I think he's the Smokey, and then the Bandit is the guy that's like going to distract, like the cops or whatever, so that he doesn't get caught, or it's something like that. But the whole thing is like he's on the run and he's trying to get like this, but you just go like, really, Coors Light bootlegging Coors Light? But that's how it was back then because you couldn't get it anywhere, so and people wanted their Coors Light.
It's just funny when you say like bootlegging. It's just like because isn't it were at the time like illegal to bring alcohol across state lines or something? Like you couldn't.
I don't know what the rules were like in the set because I think it came out in the late 70s, but it was like I guess that was what was going on. And when I talked to like uncles and my dad and like it was like that was like a big deal. Like you could not get Coors Light like if you did not live in Colorado.
Interesting.
And everybody was like, "What is this Coors Light?" Like
that's an interesting plot. I had no idea. I just remember he was in a really like kind of cool classic car. Wasn't Sally Field in it as well?
Yeah. Okay. Somehow they met up, and it was kind of an odd couple thing too, or something like that. And then they became friends. But it was like a whole hijinks ensue on the way to get this shipment over. And I know, speaking of Midnight Run, I think you said you have not seen.
I have not seen that either.
And that is a classic road
I've
trip
not seen that either, but I've been wanting to see that. I think I even had it like on a DVR, like an old DVR recorded, and then I changed like cable, so I lost it.
Yeah, it's really good. Yeah, and that's another odd couple thing because like it's De Niro and Brolin who are like Broden. Sorry, right, because wasn't he married to Barbra Streisand for a second? Or am I thinking?
Don't remember.
Or that was Brolin.
No, you're saying James Brolin. This is Charles Grodin.
Charles Grodin. Yeah. I'm mixing.
Yes, I got it. I know who's in it. I've just never seen it.
But yeah, that's a classic, and that's another one. Like if it's on TV, like I'll totally watch that because De Niro's fantastic in that, and it is like a funny hijinks ensue kind of thing. So
sure. Yeah, I feel like those like Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, Midnight Run. Those were the two that I was like, I haven't seen those though, so that's definitely the homework for me.
Yeah, you got to do those. So let's see what else. Did you have other ones? Did you have a list of stuff?
Not really. I think those were the ones that I wanted to kind of touch on. You know, it's such a unique subgenre of movie that it's like, I mean. That's why I created not often that you see a lot of these. You know,
that's why I created a list because I was like, well, we can't talk. We can't at least mention these movies.
I feel like, I mean, I could say something like, I think About Schmidt, another Alexander Payne movie, was sort of like
that's what I mean. Like it's like
road trip movie.
He's going on a. What is he driving? Like a Winnebago or something through Nebraska?
He gets a camper after his wife passes away, and he's just kind of
going on. But it's like, I mean, is it a road trip movie? Yeah, I mean, he's driving around. You know, he's going to places.
And then the Oscar winner last year, the one with Frances McDormand, I haven't seen that yet either.
Oh, what, Nomadland?
Yeah.
And then Green Book was another Oscar winner. That was a road trip movie.
That is a road trip movie.
So there you go. Those are like dramas that are comedies that are road trip movies. Have you seen? Oh, we have to say Almost Famous. That's kind of a road trip movie.
It is. That's true. Yeah, that's one of those that I was like, yeah, it is, but I don't see it as like hey, it's a road trip movie. I'm like, I think that to me, I would say is the drama of the movie, and they're just kind of on the road. You know, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I guess it's like they are on. Like, they're going to all these places, so therefore it's like, well, they're traveling.
Yeah,
but it's not really about the road.
It's not about the road trip or like them not getting to the gig on time or things like that. That's where I was like.
So I guess that's why
the definition of road trip is kind of, or a road trip movie is like, how do you define that exactly?
It's kind of
it can have its like it doesn't have to be strictly that, but that's how I was seeing it.
Yeah, no, totally. Yeah, I get that. Where it's like, it's not really. It's about the road trip, not necessarily. And Almost Famous was not about the road trip. They just traveling a lot.
Right. That was
What about Little Miss Sunshine? That was a road trip.
That was a road trip. I really. I think again that was like a that could have been 04, 05, but it was in that era.
Yeah, I feel like that was early 2000s. I don't know off the top of my head. You and I are really good at that, about picking the year. That one I'm just like, I would have said 2005 maybe. I don't know.
2005 is sounding right, but in that era, I think there was a lot of great independent type films. But yes, that was also a really great one.
I'm going to mention two that I didn't like. Okay. So Dumb and Dumber, I think, constitutes a road trip movie. I love the Farrelly brothers. I just never liked that movie because it was like, I mean, not to be funny, but it was dumb. It was just so, like, something about Mary or like Me, Myself, and Irene. I'm like, I love that because that was like, whatever that was. Like but Dumb and Dumber was just like, this is stupid. Like, what is this? Like,
it is quintessential Jim Carrey. I think I think you are probably in the minority.
I know
for sure. Of course, I think, it came out when I was still kind of a kid or going into my teens or something like that. So, I think I thought it was funny. I think, I think a lot of kids that age, it's really meant, the potty humor is meant for 12-year-olds.
Yeah. No, I get that. Yeah, I mean, I it's not like I can't get behind that. It's just, I just thought it was just like, what? Like, and it's not that I'm not a Jim Carrey fan too, because like I loved like what Ace Ventura and The Mask and the stuff that he was doing at the same time. But like for whatever reason, that movie I was just like, and that like, so you're saying there's a chance? It's like you always hear that, and it's like it's such a quintessential line.
That's a cliche nowadays. Yeah,
and I get it. And all right, the one part was funny with Jeff Daniels. With
in
the
laxative,
in
the bathroom.
I like that part. Like that was funny, but the rest of it, I was like, this is stupid.
Pooping is always funny in any movie. It's always funny.
It's always funny. Oh, and the other one that I didn't like was, and I think it was just because I wasn't from that time period. But it was Easy Rider in 1969.
Okay, yeah.
I think it just went over my head because I think that was it spoke to like kind of the hippies and the Peace generation.
Sure.
And I just was like, I don't get it, man. Like it just was like, I mean, Jack Nicholson was fantastic, and he got an Oscar nomination. That was like his first big time movie, I think.
I think that was a very. It's widely known. It's a very experimental film. It's probably one of the better known. Films that's experimental, that was kind of shot very guerrilla, Didn't have any kind of story or plot to it. It was a lot of meanderings, a lot of drug use and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I think it, for what it was doing at the time, I think, and I agree. I think the first time I tried to watch it, I was falling asleep.
Yeah, because it was very like slice of life. Like, okay, they're on the road and they're like, okay, why do I care about any of this? But
I could see that. I mean, again, I don't think I disliked it, but I don't think I liked it. I think it's like, all right, for its time, sure, I could see that being that type of thing speaking to other people.
All right, let's see. What Over the Top? Stallone?
Yes. Yeah.
Driving the truck, the big rig?
That was the truck with the kid. Okay. Are you saying you dislike that, or you?
No. Now I'm back to the ones
that.
Did
you dislike it, or did you love it?
I love that movie.
Did you like it or love it?
As silly as that movie is, I love that movie because they had just such the bad guy in it. It's just like a caricature.
Yeah.
Like, it's just like second sucks. It was like yes.
Yeah, it was it's quintessential, like that feeling of like the 80s of
Oh, it was totally 80s, and that's why I loved it. So
right. Okay. That's an interesting one.
Let's see. Borat?
Say Borat, yeah. I don't know. If we're saying I didn't dislike Borat, but I don't think I really got it when it came out. I was just kind of like, and this is the thing: the humor of that, the awkwardness of that. I mean, I liked it, and I liked the second one, but I've never been a big fan of those weird kind of like punked or hidden camera type stuff. Like when it's really uncomfortable when someone's doing something, it makes me uncomfortable. So that's the kind of humor that sometimes I'm just like cringing more than laughing.
I do agree. There's a very fine line with that, and what Sacha Baron Cohen does with that stuff with the Ali G show.
I think he's brilliant at what he does. I think he's good at it. It's sometimes it just makes me feel weird.
It is, and then when he was doing it when he had the British show and he was doing like Bruno and Ali G and everything like that, like that was pretty hysterical. But then when it comes to like a movie, you're like, you're kind of walking that. It's like this is just not. It's not working because it's like. People know this now, like,
right? Yeah, that's
sort of. It's like Impractical Jokers. Like I love that show, but now it's sort of like you guys are famous now, so it's like this isn't. Really,
how do you keep this going?
Like how do people?
It was like punked too. It was just
right. It's like it's like
when something really terrible, like to these like celebrities that are Ashton Kutcher's friends. It's like at some point are they finagling this a little bit,
and then it becomes like a thing in a movie. We're like, am I on punked? Like, is Ashton Kutcher going to come out?
I used a line of it. It's like, oh, come on, like one of the characters in Psychos is like,
okay, I must be getting punked, right? Happy birthday to James.
Yeah, right. This is like, that becomes like a thing, and at that point, you're like,
sure.
But, so.
All right, guys. Well, thanks for watching and or listening. We're on Spotify, Apple iTunes, the YouTube. That's probably where you're watching this. Hope you liked it, and we'll see you on the next one.
See you on the flip side.